You can't stop me! I'm the fastest in the universe! At making really bad puns, but you like them really. Hey guys, MasakoX here. Now, I want you all to think about this chestnut for a moment. And this is something that is often overlooked, given the forces at play within Dragon Ball. So, I want you to imagine this. Who is the fastest in Dragon Ball? Well, Masako, that question is really easy. We all know what that is. It's Ultra Instinct Goku. Well, seems like things aren't going to be so easy to think of after all. Certainly not going to be as speedy as the title would imply now, would it? Now, when it comes to this branch of power within a character, this is something that I consider to be one of the most important components of any character build. Speed or agility is something that I always use and value within a character that I create, as well as ones that I see. Granted, a speedy character may not be as strong as a tank, but imagine a speedy average power punch going at you at several times the speed of sound. That is going to hit you just as hard as a slow lumbering whack from a giant, and they can get out of dodge before you even knew what happened to you. That's why for me, agile folks are something that I enjoy within a piece of fiction, but it is often something that is overlooked by most assessors of overall strength. The speed of characters within the franchise has always been a bit of a wonky topic within the Dragon Ball community. It's something that is known within our spheres of knowledge, sure, but it's not the first thing that springs to mind. We looked to power levels back in the day, not speed levels. Other shows and properties would usually have speed as a separate property, away from strength or power. It's kind of its own thing. But in Dragon Ball, most of the time, all properties are lumped together. This is mostly down to the generalizing of capability, which was the hallmark of the Saiyan Scouters that are the staple of assessing stuff in Dragon Ball. Yeah, for better or worse. You're boiled down to a simple number, and if it was big, you were worth something in the circle of the Frieza Force. And they really over-relied on it. And our heroes showed them what for, didn't they? By basically saying, you really should not rely on those. So thanks to all that influence from the Scouters, we were led to infer that speed therefore equals power entirely, which would then make us question if faster than Goku means the same as being stronger than Goku. This would tend to happen pretty often, but at the end of the day, the true numbers would tend to vary. Why would that be exactly? Well, it's simple. It would depend on the current mood of Toriyama or Toyotaro, or whichever anime writer is in charge of the episode at any particular moment. It depends on what they think up. They would be thinking about a way to get things spiced up narratively speaking and think, I know, let's have a speed demon in here that proves to be problematic. Let's have the likes of, I don't know, Damon, a tiny speedy gnat proved to be troublesome, too fast and too small to notice. Genius! No, it just means less work for the animators. It's convenient and confusing in my humble opinion. What makes this whole thing even more frustrating is that there is no official or logical means of verification from the higher ups within the franchise. For most things, there is at least a mention in the Daizenshu guides about a particular thing, or at least an aside from Toriyama in an interview that he did for a random magazine or publication or promotional bit of material. But as far as we're concerned, there are no official comments from Toriyama regarding his views on character speeds within the overall Dragon world. And what's even more galling is that he doesn't seem to particularly care about this. Creator apathy. That is something to behold, isn't it? Not. We have traveled across the web, searching far and wide the nuances behind this important property within any potential warrior or character. And what we've managed to find on the matter were some cryptic posts on the Kanzenshu forums about a rumored interview with Toriyama, where it is supposedly stated that most Dragon Ball characters can move faster than the speed of light. But there is no hard evidence to say that regarding these rumors. Yes, most characters in Dragon Ball can indeed move at incredible speeds, for humans, but the speed of light? No, that doesn't make sense. If that were the case, then what's the point of instant transmission? On a personal level, I once studied what Bukujutsu flight was about on one website in the early 2000s. I remember I was just randomly looking for any Dragon Ball information I could find when there was nothing around. And I heard that Bukujutsu on average was about traveling at 150 miles an hour or so. That is more logical, but again, it just, it doesn't seem right given how fast some folks can travel at. You see, it's really tricky to solve when you actually burrow deep into this. We're really getting into the early 2000s territory, aren't we? With all this mystery and investigation. Those were the days when we in the West knew nothing about the details of Dragon Ball. It kind of feels almost nostalgic, doesn't it? Back when the internet was just getting into its stride with streaming video and having wider accessibility. However, our efforts finding anything about speed weren't in vain, for Haverock was able to find something useful. We found an interesting study by a user going by the name Mortine over on ComicVine, which caught our attention when it came to looking back on examples of speed in Dragon Ball. Now, we must stress this fact quite considerably before we go any further. This should not be by any means considered to be an official source. It's just a little interesting thought experiment which definitely got us thinking. It is certainly good enough to demonstrate some thoughts that we actually as a pair wanted to push through this video. So thank you Mortine for inspiring us with this discussion. When we look at this forum post, and it's a long one, we realized immediately that this wasn't a basic supposition. This was something that came with hard evidence from the manga. And I seriously recommend that you go over and read this for the full lowdown. One of the most important statements in Mortine's study is this. When DBZ characters are flying, they reach their top speed almost instantly, and then they are losing it the longer they fly. And that fact would end pretty badly if the Dragon World had our boring real-life physics, but luckily it doesn't. Remember the moon and the lack thereof of it? How it would cause really bad tides in real life, but it does nothing in here? Yeah, I thought so. So for all of you that are thinking that all of this weird speed scaling was started by the likes of Dragon Ball Z, and that the original was a paragon of consistency, here's a little reminder that Master Roshi was able to do the following. He was able to, complete an entire duel with Krillin within a second. He was able to catch projectiles in mid-air with little effort, as well as move his hand fast enough to create a powerful gust of wind that threw Yamcha into a wall. He would make Mr. Miyagi blush. Yeah, that's pretty speedy for a 300-year-old man. All of that happened in the original Dragon Ball. Yeah, the days when outer space was just a concept or even an inkling in Toriyama's mind. For that to even be possible in the realms of physics, Roshi would have to move faster than the speed of sound and have minimal or no drag coming from his hands and body. And human beings aren't exactly sleek like a racing car now, are they? Although that would explain why Roshi has a bald head. Does that sound interesting? Well, Mortine isn't done yet. We are just warming up, or more accurately, speeding up. We fast forward to the 22nd World Martial Arts Tournament for our next clue stroke insight. In this tournament, Goku became faster than Master Roshi, who was the current fastest man on the planet. Roshi was unable to see Goku in person, as well as him taking his mantle of being super fast. Now I want you to remember that last statement, as it will become quite important later on in this discussion. Goku's limits were about to be increased even further, thanks to the trials and tribulations of the King Piccolo arc, and the rapid necessity to beat this foe. After the whole trial of the Ultra Divine Water led by Mr. Popo, Goku became much faster than before. He was able to take on King Piccolo thanks to this powerful elixir. Before he drank it, he couldn't kick Drum at all. In theory, Drum was the strongest of Piccolo's children, but after drinking the water, he was able to outdo him and use that to his advantage. In fact, he was able to do more than that if you remember, much to a surprise and horror. And as you may remember, Goku was now just as fast as King Piccolo in his prime, but even that skill pales in comparison before the speed demon that was and is Mr. Popo. Taking on two Super Saiyan children? Yeah, that's pretty fast. And it continues. When we get to the end of Dragon Ball, with the duel between Goku and Piccolo Jr., the pair of them became so fast that not even Kami could see them. They had transcended to levels that not even the Guardian of Earth could fathom properly. All this in the space of just a few years, where it had previously taken decades to accomplish the former record. the state of progress was just as rapid in Dragon Ball as the later editions when you boil everything down to its component parts and all. Now, as much as we would like to, we won't be going through every single point in this article, as we would be here forever. And I know that you are very, very busy right now. We strongly urge you to check it out in your own time and hope that this article that More Time made is interesting for you. But as you can see from what we've already stated, speed was already approaching ridiculous speed levels. Just so you know, we are far from being done. After all, Raditz was faster than Goku and Piccolo, so Space was just going to take this whole speed debate to a whole other level of theory and discussion and ridiculousness and absurdity. It just got faster and faster. The speed of progress. Goku then became faster than Nappa, who obviously was faster than Raditz. All of this in the space of less than a year. And that was before we even got started with the likes of Kaioken being thrown in. And oh boy, as you know already, Kaioken doubles a lot of your stats, including speed. So by Mortaine's calculations in the Saiyan saga, we're heading towards numbers that are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands faster than Roshi, who, as we've established, can reach levels akin to the speed of sound if we take real-life physics into the mix. Yeah, Berta on the other hand could outpace Vegeta after his first Senkai, but was no match for Goku after his training in 100 times Earth gravity. The levels are now starting to lose their meaning in terms of human scale now, and we've barely gotten into the Namek saga at this point, and Goku still was slower than Frieza. And this was when Frieza was using half of his power when using Kaioken times 20 for Goku. We could go on and on and on about how fast these characters can become, but the truth is that every new opponent will always be faster. They'll always be stronger than the previous one. That's just kind of the point of Dragon Ball, to always discover more superior beings for our main characters to conquer. Eventually. That's the way it is. We can speculate how fast the likes of Cell and Majin Buu are, or think whether Hit is fast in the traditional sense, or if he's cheating by skipping a frame of time and such. Does his time skip ability count as outright speed or not? It's really up in the air. But what's more interesting is the point when certain characters are unable to track the movement of other characters. It's a common narrative trope within Dragon Ball, just to emphasize the skill of a new character, that they have increased in power. It's just an easy way to say it. It's easy, yet effective. Now let's think about Hit versus Dispo. The likes of Zeno the Omni King couldn't see it at its full capacity, much to their annoyance. And they're supposed to be pretty much omnipotent, which also kinda proves that they aren't all that powerful in the grand scheme of things. The Grand Priest could take them if they wanted to. Still think there was a bit of a missed plot point there. This is both a staple of the series and proof that Toriyama and Toei don't really bother themselves with calculating the specific speed of individuals, and instead they go with the Tournament of Power's unwritten rule of, does it look cool? Which makes us, the Western audiences, pretty aggravated actually. We like our lists, we like consistency, but at some point we've past ridiculous and ludicrous speeds, and we may be heading straight into plaid levels of speed. We aren't going to be able to make total sense within the Dragon world when it comes to speed outright, unfortunately, because there is none. Speed is just an attachment to power, for narrative's sake. It doesn't really matter that much when it's not needed. The only way it's measured is faster than character X, and it has been here since the early days of Dragon Ball. It is here as a way to up the stakes and provide the exposition for a character's power and provide for some cool action scenes. So if you thought that power levels are just bonkers, just remember, you can keep up with power levels in DB through the Frieza saga to the Trunks saga. You know, speed stopped making sense way before we first saw Frieza. So what do you guys think? Does this make sense to you? Should we be speed scaling as well as power scaling? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going, and I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!